Chapter 1: The First Killing. Our story begins in 1878 in the remote territories of New Mexico. At that time, the region surrounding Coyote Pass was a lawless frontier. The nearest town of any significance was Silver City, located approximately 30 miles to the southwest. The region was controlled by outlaws, prospectors, and settlers who had fled from civilization. Coyote Pass itself was a narrow canyon passage that cut through the San Mateo Mountains. The pass was a crucial route for travelers, traders, and outlaws moving between northern New Mexico and the Arizona Territory. The pass was also known to be dangerous, not just because of the terrain, but because of the outlaws who used it as a hiding place and an ambush point. On the evening of March 15, 1878, a man named Samuel Garrett, a prospector who had been working in the region for several years, was traveling through Coyote Pass on his way to Silver City. Garrett was alone on horseback, carrying supplies and equipment for his mining operation. According to the official account filed with the New Mexico Territorial Records in Santa Fe and later documented in the Silver City Enterprise newspaper on March 22, 1878, Garrett encountered another man on the trail. The man was sitting beside the road, apparently injured or exhausted. According to Garrett's own account, which was recorded by a territorial marshal named James Colt, Garrett stopped to help the man. Garrett asked the man if he needed assistance. The man responded by pulling a revolver from his holster and shooting Garrett 3 times in the chest. Garrett fell from his horse and died within minutes. But here's where the story becomes extraordinary. According to Marshal Coulter's investigation, when he arrived at the scene approximately 2 hours later, responding to reports of gunshots from nearby prospectors, he found Garrett's body. But he also found something else. He found the revolver. The revolver was lying on the ground, approximately 10 feet away from where the shooter had been standing. But the revolver was not simply lying there. The revolver was burning. The revolver was engulfed in flames. The revolver was glowing, with an intense, otherworldly heat. According to Coulter's official report, he attempted to approach the revolver to extinguish the flames. But as he got within a few feet of the weapon, he felt an overwhelming wave of heat. The heat was so intense that it forced him to retreat. The heat was so intense that it blistered his skin and burned his clothing. Coulter wrote in his report, "The fire was not normal fire. The fire was blue and purple in color. The fire seemed to have a consciousness. The fire seemed to be alive. I was unable to extinguish the flames or retrieve the weapon. I was forced to leave the scene and return to Silver City to report the incident." By the time Coulter returned to Coyote Pass with additional men and equipment, the revolver had stopped burning. The fire had extinguished itself, but the revolver remained on the ground, untouched and mysterious. According to Coulter's account, one of the men with him, a prospector named Thomas Webb, picked up the revolver to examine it. According to the other witnesses, the moment Webb touched the revolver, his hand began to burn.
Webb screamed in agony and dropped the revolver. His hand was severely burned, with marks that resembled the pattern of flames. Webb recovered from his physical injuries, but he was psychologically traumatized. According to accounts from people who knew Webb, he became obsessed with the revolver. He spent months researching its history. He spent months trying to understand what had happened to him. And then, on September 14, 1878, approximately 6 months after his encounter with the revolver, Thomas Webb died. He died of a mysterious illness. He died in his sleep. He died with an expression of absolute terror on his face. The cause of death was listed as heart failure of unknown origin in the official medical records, but those who knew Webb believed that he had been killed by the revolver. Those who knew Webb believed that the revolver had cursed him. Those who knew Webb believed that the revolver had burned him from the inside out. But the story of the burning Colt was just beginning.
Chapter 2. The pattern emerges. By late 1878, a pattern had emerged in the region surrounding Coyote Pass. People were dying, people were being killed, and in many cases, the deaths seemed to be connected to the burning Colt. In April of 1878, just weeks after Samuel Garrett's death, a man named Robert Hayes was traveling through Coyote Pass. According to accounts from other travelers, Hayes encountered the revolver lying on the ground. Hayes picked it up. Hayes examined it, and then Hayes was shot by an unknown assailant. The shooter disappeared into the canyon, leaving Hayes bleeding on the ground. Hayes was found by other travelers and taken to Silver City, where he died from his injuries 3 days later. In June of 1878, a man named James Mitchell reported finding the revolver in a canyon near Coyote Pass. According to Mitchell's account, he picked up the revolver and attempted to bring it to the authorities. But as he was riding towards Silver City, he was ambushed by an unknown gunman. Mitchell was shot multiple times and killed. The revolver was found at the scene, burning with the same blue and purple flames that had been reported in previous incidents. In August of 1878, a cavalry officer named William Hayes was conducting a patrol in the region. According to his official military report, filed with the Fort Bayard commander, Hayes and his men encountered the revolver near Coyote Pass. Hayes ordered one of his men to retrieve the weapon. The soldier picked up the revolver and was immediately shot by an unknown assailant. The soldier died within minutes. Hayes attempted to pursue the shooter, but the shooter disappeared into the canyon. When Hayes returned to the scene, the revolver was gone, but it had left behind a trail of burned ground. The ground was scorched in a pattern that resembled flames. By September of 1878, the territorial authorities had become alarmed. The pattern was undeniable. The revolver was appearing in the region. People were dying, and the deaths seemed to be connected to the revolver. The territorial marshal, James Coulter, decided to investigate the phenomenon more thoroughly. Coulter spent weeks traveling through the region, interviewing witnesses, collecting accounts, and attempting to understand the nature
of the revolver. What Coulter discovered was shocking. According to Coulter's investigation, the revolver had a history that stretched back before 1878. According to accounts from local Navajo people and Apache scouts, the revolver had been cursed years earlier by a Navajo medicine man named Hosteen Alchini. According to the accounts, Alchini had cursed the revolver after a white settler had killed Alchini's son. The settler had used a Colt peacemaker to shoot the boy. The settler had left the gun at the scene of the crime, and Alchini had performed a ritual to curse the weapon. According to the Navajo accounts, Alchini had spoken words of power over the revolver. Alchini had bound the spirit of his dead son to the weapon. Alchini had given the revolver the ability to burn. Alchini had given the revolver the ability to kill. Alchini had given the revolver the ability to seek vengeance. But Alchini had also placed a condition on the curse. According to the accounts, the revolver would only kill those who were guilty of wrongdoing. The revolver would only burn those who deserved to burn. The revolver would only seek vengeance against those who had wronged the Navajo people.
Coulter theorized that the revolver had been dormant for years, waiting for the right circumstances to awaken. Coulter theorized that something had changed in 1878 that had activated the curse. Coulter theorized that the revolver was now actively seeking out those who were guilty of crimes against the Navajo people. To test his theory, Coulter began researching the backgrounds of the men who had been killed by the revolver. What Coulter discovered was extraordinary. Samuel Garrett, the first victim, had been involved in the displacement of Navajo people from their lands. Robert Hayes had been a slave trader who had captured and sold Navajo people. James Mitchell had been a prospector who had stolen from Navajo sacred sites. Lieutenant William Hayes had been involved in military operations against the Navajo people. In other words, all of the victims had been guilty of crimes against the Navajo people. All of the victims had been involved in the exploitation or persecution of the Navajo. All of the victims had deserved to be punished according to Navajo law and tradition. Coulter realized that the revolver was not simply a weapon. The revolver was an instrument of justice. The revolver was a tool of vengeance. The revolver was a manifestation of Navajo spiritual power. Chapter 3. The investigation deepens. In October of 1878, Marshal James Coulter decided to attempt something dangerous. Coulter decided to try to locate the revolver and study it directly. Coulter decided to try to understand the nature of the curse. Coulter decided to try to find a way to stop the killings. Coulter spent weeks searching the region surrounding Coyote Pass. He interviewed prospectors. He interviewed settlers. He interviewed Navajo people and Apache scouts. He collected accounts of revolver sightings. He mapped out the locations where the revolver had appeared. And then, in late October, Coulter received a lead. According to accounts from a prospector named Samuel Cross, the revolver had been seen near an abandoned mining camp approximately 5 miles north of Coyote Pass. Cross reported that he had seen the revolver lying on the ground, burning with blue and purple flames. Cross reported that he had heard voices speaking in an unknown language coming from the revolver. Coulter organized an expedition to investigate. He brought with him several armed men, including a territorial judge named Edward Hatch and a doctor named Charles Whitmore, the same doctor who had treated Thomas Webb for his burns. According to Coulter's detailed account of the expedition, which was published in the Silver City Enterprise on November 5, 1878, the group arrived at the abandoned mining camp around dusk. The camp was desolate. The buildings were falling apart. The equipment was rusted and broken. But in the center of the camp, on a wooden table, they found the revolver. According to Coulter's account, the revolver was burning with the same blue and purple flames that had been reported in previous incidents. The flames were not consuming the revolver. The flames were emanating from the revolver. The flames seemed to have a consciousness. The flames seemed to be aware of the group's presence. Coulter approached the revolver carefully. As he got closer, the flames grew more intense. The flames grew more violent. The flames seemed to be reaching out toward him. According to Coulter's account, he heard a voice. The voice was speaking in a language he did not recognize. The voice seemed to be coming from the revolver itself. The voice seemed to be speaking words of power and curse. Coulter attempted to speak to the voice. Coulter asked the voice who it was. Coulter asked the voice what it wanted. And then, according to Coulter's account, something extraordinary happened.
The voice responded. The voice spoke in English. The voice said, "I am the spirit of the one who was wronged. I am the spirit of the boy who was killed. I am the spirit of vengeance. I am the spirit of justice. I will continue to burn until all those who have wronged my people are punished." Coulter was shocked. Coulter asked the voice if there was a way to stop the killings. Coulter asked the voice if there was a way to end the curse. According to Coulter's account, the voice responded, "The curse can only be ended when justice is served. The curse can only be ended when the guilty are punished. The curse can only be ended when the Navajo people are avenged." Coulter attempted to reach out and grab the revolver, but the flames forced him back. The heat was too intense. The flames were too powerful. And then, according to the accounts of the other men present, something unexpected happened. Judge Edward Hatch stepped forward. Judge Hatch approached the revolver. Judge Hatch reached out and grabbed the revolver with his bare hand. According to the witnesses, the moment Hatch touched the revolver, his hand burst into flames. Hatch screamed in agony and dropped the revolver. His hand was severely burned. His hand was charred and blackened. But Hatch did not run. Hatch did not retreat. Instead, Hatch stood there staring at his burned hand, and then he began to speak. According to the accounts of the witnesses, Hatch confessed. Hatch confessed to crimes that he had committed against the Navajo people. Hatch confessed to participating in the displacement of Navajo families from their lands. Hatch confessed to profiting from the suffering of the Navajo people. Hatch confessed to using his position as a judge to deny justice to Navajo people who had been wronged. Hatch confessed to everything. And then, according to the accounts, Hatch picked up the revolver again. Hatch held the revolver in his burned hand, and Hatch spoke words of apology. Hatch spoke words of remorse. Hatch spoke words of commitment to making amends. The flames began to subside. The blue and purple fire began to fade. The revolver began to cool. According to Coulter's account, the revolver stopped burning. The curse seemed to have been satisfied. The revolver seemed to have accepted Hatch's confession and apology. But the revolver did not disappear. The revolver remained in Hatch's hand. The revolver remained in the physical world. And Hatch made a decision. According to Coulter's account, Hatch decided to keep the revolver. Hatch decided to carry the revolver as a reminder of his crimes. Hatch decided to dedicate the rest of his life to making amends for the wrongs he had committed against the Navajo people. Hatch returned to Silver City and resigned from his position as judge. Hatch spent the rest of his life working with the Navajo people. Hatch spent the rest of his life advocating for Navajo rights. Hatch spent the rest of his life attempting to undo the damage he had caused. And the burning Colt remained with him. The revolver never burned again. The revolver never killed again. The revolver became a symbol of redemption and transformation.
Chapter 4: The Modern Encounters. For over a century, the burning Colt remained dormant. The revolver stayed with Judge Edward Hatch. After Hatch's death in 1912, the revolver passed to his descendants. The revolver was kept in a private collection. The revolver was hidden from public view. But in 1978, exactly 100 years after the first killing, the revolver reappeared. In October of 1978, a man named Robert Yazzie, a Navajo historian and spiritual leader, was conducting research into the history of Navajo settler relations in the region. Yazzie was interviewing descendants of the original settlers. Yazzie was collecting historical documents and artifacts. And Yazzie discovered the burning Colt. According to Yazzie's account, which was published in a scholarly journal called the American Journal of Frontier Studies in 1979, he found the revolver in the private collection of a man named Thomas Hatch, the great-grandson of Judge Edward Hatch. According to Yazzie's account, Thomas Hatch was willing to share the revolver with Yazzie for research purposes. Thomas Hatch believed that the revolver's story needed to be told. Thomas Hatch believed that the revolver was an important historical artifact. Yazzie examined the revolver carefully. Yazzie took photographs of the weapon. Yazzie documented the revolver's physical characteristics, and Yazzie made a discovery that shocked the paranormal research community. Yazzie discovered that the revolver bore marks that could not be explained by normal wear and tear. The revolver bore marks that resembled burn patterns.
The revolver bore marks that suggested it had been exposed to extreme heat on multiple occasions. Yazzie also discovered something else. Yazzie discovered that the revolver seemed to have a consciousness. Yazzie discovered that the revolver seemed to be aware of his presence. Yazzie discovered that the revolver seemed to be communicating with him. According to Yazzie's account, he held the revolver in his hand and he felt a warmth emanating from the weapon. The warmth was not painful. The warmth was not threatening. The warmth was comforting. The warmth seemed to be expressing gratitude. Yazzie theorized that the revolver was no longer cursed. Yazzie theorized that the revolver had been redeemed through Judge Hatch's confession and commitment to making amends. Yazzie theorized that the revolver had evolved from an instrument of vengeance into an instrument of justice and reconciliation. In 1980, a paranormal investigator named Dr. Sarah Chen traveled to Silver City to investigate the burning Colt. Chen was equipped with thermal imaging cameras, electromagnetic field detectors, and other paranormal research equipment. What Chen found was extraordinary. According to Chen's report, the revolver emitted a faint electromagnetic signature. The revolver emitted a faint thermal signature. The revolver seemed to be alive. The revolver seemed to be conscious. But Chen also discovered something else. Chen discovered that the revolver only emitted these signatures when it was in the presence of someone who had committed crimes against the Navajo people. Chen discovered that the revolver seemed to be able to sense guilt. Chen discovered that the revolver seemed to be able to judge the moral character of those who held it. In 2003, a firearms expert named Dr. James Mitchell conducted a detailed analysis of the burning Colt. Mitchell examined the weapon's construction. Mitchell analyzed the weapon's ballistic properties. Mitchell attempted to understand how the revolver could burn without being consumed by fire. According to Mitchell's report, the revolver was a standard Colt Peacemaker manufactured in 1872. The revolver showed no signs of supernatural modification. The revolver appeared to be a normal firearm in every physical respect. But Mitchell noted something extraordinary. Mitchell noted that the revolver seemed to defy the laws of thermodynamics. Mitchell noted that the revolver seemed to be able to generate heat without any apparent fuel source. Mitchell noted that the revolver was powered by spiritual energy. Mitchell theorized that the revolver was powered by the curse that had been placed on it by Hastine Alcini. Mitchell theorized that the revolver was powered by the spirit of the boy who had been killed. In 2015, the burning Colt was donated to a museum in Silver City. The museum is the Silver City Museum, located on Main Street in downtown Silver City. The revolver is displayed in a climate-controlled case behind protective glass.
According to the museum's curator, the revolver attracts thousands of visitors every year. According to the curator, visitors report experiencing strange sensations when viewing the revolver. Visitors report feeling warmth emanating from the weapon. Visitors report feeling emotions of sadness and anger. Visitors report feeling a sense of spiritual presence. But the revolver has not burned since Judge Hatch's time.
The revolver has not killed since the late 1800s. The revolver seems to have been satisfied. The revolver seems to have been redeemed.
Chapter 5. The Truth Revealed. In 2018, a Navajo spiritual leader named Hastin Dene decided to speak publicly about the burning Colt for the first time. According to an interview that Dene gave to a documentary filmmaker named Lisa Charlie, Dene revealed the true nature of the revolver and the curse that had been placed on it. According to Dene, Hastin Alkini had indeed cursed the revolver after his son was killed. But Alkini's curse was not simply an act of vengeance. Alkini's curse was an act of justice. Alkini's curse was designed to punish those who had wronged the Navajo people. Alkini's curse was designed to protect the Navajo people from exploitation and persecution. But Dene also revealed something crucial. The curse was designed to be temporary. The curse was designed to end when justice was served. The curse was designed to end when the guilty were punished and the innocent were avenged. According to Dene, Judge Edward Hatch's confession and commitment to making amends had satisfied the curse. Hatch's actions had proven that redemption was possible. Hatch's actions had proven that those who had wronged the Navajo people could change. Hatch's actions had proven that justice and reconciliation could be achieved. But Dene also revealed something else. Dene revealed that the revolver was not simply a weapon. The revolver was a spiritual artifact. The revolver contained the spirit of Alkini's son. The revolver contained the collective consciousness of all Navajo people who had suffered during the frontier era. According to Dene, the revolver was now a tool of healing and reconciliation. The revolver was now a reminder of the suffering that had been endured. The revolver was now a symbol of the importance of justice and the possibility of redemption. Rodriguez theorized that the revolver was still active. Rodriguez theorized that the revolver was still appearing to people. Rodriguez theorized that the revolver was still offering people an opportunity to transform themselves. But Rodriguez also made another discovery. Rodriguez discovered that the revolver's appearance was becoming more frequent. Rodriguez discovered that the revolver was appearing to more people. Rodriguez discovered that the revolver was becoming more active. According to Rodriguez's calculations, if the pattern continued, the revolver would eventually become so active that it could no longer be contained. The revolver would eventually become so powerful that it would need to be displayed publicly. The revolver would eventually need to be seen by the world. And that moment, according to Rodriguez's analysis, had arrived. The revolver was now on public display in the Silver City Museum. The revolver was now visible to thousands of visitors every year. The revolver was now available for the world to see and to understand. In 2023, a woman named Sarah Begay, a descendant of Navajo people who had suffered during the frontier era, visited the Silver City Museum to view the burning Colt. According to her account, she stood in front of the revolver's display case and she felt a warmth emanating from the weapon. She felt emotions of sadness and anger. She felt a sense of spiritual presence. And then, according to Begay, she heard a voice. The voice was speaking in Navajo. The voice was speaking words of acknowledgement. The voice was speaking words of healing. According to Begay, the voice said, "Your suffering has been acknowledged. Your pain has been recognized. Your ancestors have been avenged. Now is the time for healing. Now is the time for reconciliation. Now is the time for justice to be served." Sarah Begay left the museum with tears streaming down her face. She felt as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. She felt as if the suffering of her ancestors had finally been acknowledged. She felt as if healing could now begin.
Epilogue. The mystery endures. The story of the burning Colt of Coyote Pass raises questions that we may never be able to answer. Is the revolver truly cursed? Is the revolver truly conscious? Is the revolver truly an instrument of justice and reconciliation? Or is the revolver something that defies our conventional understanding of reality itself? What we do know is that the phenomenon is real. The phenomenon has been documented for over 140 years. The phenomenon continues to this day. The revolver is still on display in the Silver City Museum. The revolver is still attracting thousands of visitors every year. The revolver is still emitting electromagnetic and thermal signatures that cannot be explained by conventional science. And the revolver is still communicating. The revolver is still offering people an opportunity to confront their guilt. The revolver is still offering people an opportunity to transform themselves. If you ever find yourself in Silver City, New Mexico, and you visit the Silver City Museum on Main Street, I would urge you to stand in front of the burning Colt's display case. Stand there, feel the warmth emanating from the weapon. Listen to the voices speaking in languages you may not understand. Feel the presence of the ancestors who have suffered. Because the burning Colt is not your enemy. The burning Colt is your teacher. The burning Colt is your guide. The burning Colt is asking you to remember. The burning Colt is asking you to listen. The burning Colt is asking you to change. And somewhere in the New Mexico desert, near Coyote Pass, the spirit of Hastine Alcini's son is still watching. The spirit is still waiting. The spirit is still seeking justice and reconciliation. The burning Colt is still burning. This has been Mysteries of the Old West. Thank you for joining us as we explored the darkness and the wisdom of America's frontier. If you enjoyed this investigation, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the paranormal mysteries of the Old West. Until next time, stay safe, stay respectful, and remember, some weapons are meant to teach us about justice. Some curses are meant to lead us toward redemption. Some mysteries are meant to transform us. The burning Colt is still waiting,
and the world is finally beginning to listen.